There we go. We're now live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers here on talkers.com. Let's see now. We're slightly changing it this week. We're not going to show you our guest until part 2 comes up. So whilst you might hear noises and voices in the background, like me, because I'm not on screen at the moment, yeah, well, we're all here. We're in the meeting, but we're being quiet.
So, Moira,
yes.
Have we told the viewers that this is the live recording, warts and all, of the Talk Show for Talkers, during which they're going to see 4 episodes recorded and all the stuff that goes on in the background, including all the mess, the cock-ups and the disasters from which we're learning every week? And that have we told them at least that much?
No, not yet. Well, yeah, we have. Actually, we have. You've just done it. No,
I think it's really important so that
I do resemble that actually, Paul, because there aren't any cock-ups, as you so colourfully call it, because everything always works perfectly. Finger in the air.
Hey, listeners, right. Listeners, that's a form of rhetoric that Moira has just
invented.
Expounded. Invent. Thank you, Ted. One of the most attractive things for people when they come to a show is that they're going to see mistakes. They're going to see bloopers. They're going to see cock-ups. And they really hope that I'm going to be embarrassed. They've been tuning in every week, hoping that sooner or later, Paul is going to be booted off the show for being a disruptive influence. And they're all there waiting to see this happening.
Paul, would you unload your WhatsApp so that we don't keep on getting the noises coming through? I've just done the same with mine.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Sometimes I can edit them out, but if they happen while someone is speaking, then I can't.
That's fine, Moira. That's absolutely fine.
Now, where did the person?
You know me. I never learn from my mistakes. You know.
No.
Made the mistake last week and the week before and all that. So, I promise you, I'll leave my WhatsApp on next week until you tell me turn it off. How's that? So it's all under control.
But that relies upon me remembering to turn mine off as well. So are we going to press on?
We will.
If we keep our guests muted, then it won't be a disruption. Okay, so let's start, because I'm all ready and set up, and it is 1:15. So let's just make sure that I'm in the right place. Oh, let's have a bit of a sound check just to make sure, gentlemen.
Oh, yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah, you're fine. Ted?
Testing.
Can you hear me, Moira? Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, you're a little bit softer than Paul, but Paul is always very loud. I made the mistake yesterday when I was doing an interview. I didn't check the audio, and I had done the silly thing. I'd taken because I wanted to listen on headphone, but I didn't want to listen on these big headphones. I'd put my Bluetooth headphone on. And that meant that the audio from Zoom was no longer going through my desk, so it was no longer going through into Audacity. So I recorded 15 minutes of an interview with only my audio coming through.
Just in case I forget, I just want you to tell me sometime soon, recommend to me a Bluetooth microphone, please, that can be used. A Bluetooth microphone, right? Don't tell me now.
No, for what purpose? For what purpose?
I want multi-purposed, typically running conferences and everything else under the sun. For hybrid meetings, particularly hybrid meetings. But let's discuss it later. I'm just mentioning it in case I forget it.
Okay.
It's not for myself, by the way.
Oh, okay. Right, well, let's, pardon me, let's get going. Cut my microphone off in a second. Okay, Ted, are you ready?
I'm ready, Myra.
Now remember, Ted, the word "and" is forbidden.
Okay.
The word "so" is forbidden.
Okay.
The word "brilliant" is forbidden.
Is it?
Yes, it's one of your third most used words. That was brilliant.
And so I
that was
can't use
brilliant.
I'm brilliant, so.
Find another way of saying that was really interesting. Or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moira,
Yeah.
Moira, do you run
Yeah.
coaching sessions before we record the podcast? Because if you do, I'd like to come in an hour earlier because I could do with a coaching session on what words I use as well.
I don't think you can afford me, Paul.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll do a crowdfunded, whatever your fee is, because I use plenty of ands, and I'm prone to the odd. So he's a jolly good fellow.
Yeah.
So he's a jolly good fellow. So I'm inclined to do those things, and I especially want to welcome our guests.
Yes.
May I name
No.
my great?
No, you may not. No, we're going to do this. We're going to do this
We're going
properly.
to do this the way we all
Guest, you are muted for the next 15 minutes or so, and we will bring you in part 2. But
Go ahead, Myra. So let's get us on the road.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers, and we look forward to your comments, your questions, any feedback. We regard this as evaluations. You can listen to previous shows on our website, irishtalkers.com. We also publish the Public Speaking Weekly, and this is a roundup of links from the internet, all about Toastmasters, public speaking, confidence, leadership. So look out for the newspaper link on our website. My name is Ted Malamphy, and I'm joined again this week by the prolific, persuasive, passionate, personable Paul O'Mahony.
Thank you very much, listeners, for paying at least a minimum amount of attention to that drivel. That, of course, is a very bad way to speak to people. And in Toastmasters, we do not speak to each other by using the D word. That is a superb example of a great leader in Toastmasters paying a compliment to somebody and a novice on the other end of the microphone not responding in kind. I'm giving myself an evaluation so that I shan't be repeating that in future. Thank you very much, Mr. Malamphy, and thank you very much for being here, listeners.
And thank you very much, Paul. And I don't mind you referring to what you say as drivel once you don't apportion it to me. So on today's show, we will have the usual mix of a thought for the week, a word for the week. We are going to promise you that tomorrow we have a very special guest. And this special guest you will meet tomorrow. And this special guest is special because, well, I'm not going to tell you anymore. You'll have to come back tomorrow because we'll be doing our interview with the special guest tomorrow. Paul will be talking about our district conference in segment 3. And we will also be speaking with our special guest in segment 4 because this lady will be, I'm after leaving the gender out now. That's half the battle. So this lady, as I've said, knows a lot about conferences. So I'm sure Paul will learn a lot about how to do it the way it should be done. So I'm looking forward to that. And for my thought for it's not my thought for the week, but it's one that I picked up from one of these thought leaders that I like listening to occasionally. And it's this: success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily. And Jim Rohn was the man who gave us that. And I think he's a thought leader. So what would you think of that, Paul?
Well, Jim Rohn is definitely a thought leader. He's much better known in the United States than he's known in Cork or in District 71. but some of my best friends across the other side of the Atlantic swear by him. Thing about that quote is a really big one as far as Jim Rohn was concerned and his influence is concerned, that he has always said, been quoted as saying that there is only one step. And the idea that there is only one step is very simple. How do you eat an elephant? By taking one bite. That is how you eat an elephant. One bite. And then when you finish that one bite, you do one bite. So you never eat an elephant by taking any more than one bite. And that is Jim Rohn's influence. And I've used it because it really does focus you on, look, you got a huge project to do, massive conference to organize, whatever. There is only one thing to do. All the pressure disappears. I got 19 things on my agenda. There's only one thing to do, Ted. Just one thing. Take one step. When you've done that, you can always take another one. But until you've taken one step, you've done nothing. So I love that Jim Rohn quote, by the way. Little background. I have to, well, he'll never listen to this, but my great friend and podcasting associate who lives in Las Vegas, whose name I have temporarily forgotten, he will know who I'm talking about. He's the one who introduced me to Jim Rohn.
Oh, interesting. Interesting, yeah. So,
oh yes, and he was coached by Jim Rohn, and he was coached by Jim Rohn.
Excellent. So your definition for success, Paul, is one bite.
Yeah, one step. That's all. How do you organize a conference?
Take one step or one bite.
Well, look here, Ted. I'm a poet. Sometimes I have to use the word bite. Sometimes I have to use the word step. It depends on whether I want an S sound. Forgive me, I can go on like that. Yeah,
interesting, yeah. Actually, because you have bite, B-Y-T-E. So that would be another way to look at it. Paul, you have a word for the week, have you?
Oh yes, Ted, and it's in complete contrast with that quotation, because I'm going to offer people a word that is called crass. In colloquial English, C-R-A-S-S, there is a insulting phrase that you can say to somebody called that is an example of crass stupidity. And if you want to engage in political dialectics, you can also use the phrase, crass stupidity. However, it's quite a powerful little word for a whole lot of other situations. And let me give you an example or two. First of all, what does it mean? It means gross. So that's gross. That meaning that's fairly unpleasant to look at, or your mind is gross, you've got a crass mentality. It means that you've got no sophistication, delicacy, you've got no discriminatory abilities. So, to say something is crass propaganda, crass. Anyway, that's a whole load of things. And there's a lovely thing you can use. You see, crass begins with a C, but it also, synonym, coarse, common, and crude. So he was both crass, coarse, common, and crude. So there are three, and there's some wonderful antonyms. This is the opposite meaning of the word crass. Civilized, cultivated, and cultured. So there you are.
Lovely alliteration, Paul, with antonyms and synonyms.
Well, that's the reason I use them as a alliteration. But antonyms and synonyms are really powerful. So here's my usual question on the show, listeners. And I hesitate to offer it to Ted, but as you know, I do it. Well, no, as some of you might know, when did the word crass enter the English language? In which century was crass first used?
I'd say the 16th century.
Oh, Ted, you came
Wrong.
so close.
Wrong again,
So near. So
and
which
yet so
century
far
was it?
away.
Yeah, it was in 1625. In 1625,
1625.
the first recorded use of the word crass was in that year. You know, if you're looking for, there are other words that enter the English language in that year, you can always go to Merriam-Webster and that dictionary, which is, you know, very user-friendly. You'll find them there. So 1625?
1625.
A few years before the English Revolution.
Mm.
So there we are.
1625, a nice one. No, it's a word you wouldn't hear it very often, Paul, unless you wanted to insult somebody, I suppose.
Yeah, you could also refer to somebody who does something like, you know, you could even use it to refer to yourself. In a moment of crass stupidity, I jumped into the boiling oil. So if you use it against yourself, then it's a good use in conversation.
Okay.
If you want to provoke a row and you're really itching for a fight, which you might be if you were in politics, for example.
True. And you used another word there, actually, gross. You said crass could also be gross. I can remember, I think I was about 9 years of age, the first time I heard the word gross. Mathematically, 144. I've never forgotten it. And it's a bit of stupid information, but you'd see people on quiz shows and they're being asked, what is a gross? And they come up with a completely different definition altogether.
Well, there's a little throwaway phrase that a lot of people who are less mature than me, in other words, younger than me, have done to say, oh, yuck, that's gross.
Yes, yes.
Dad, that's gross.
Yeah, but is that an American term, Paul? I think it is.
Well, I've come downstairs in my house with my hair all over the place or with the wrong clothes on, and I've been told by my daughter, oh, Dad, that's gross.
Okay, well, that means it came from America, so, Paul, thank you for that. And that's a nice segue to finish up this particular episode of the Talk Show for Talkers. So come back tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters and friends, and you'll be meeting our very special guest. See you then. Bye. Well, Diane, that was the first episode where we get rid of all the drivel.
Okay, so how long have we got for this next bit?
Well, it's about 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes.
12 to 15 minutes it ends up. We find that Ted's interview style is such that our guests, for some reason or other, it unlocks something in them and it's difficult to get them to shut up. Sorry, to stop talking. I don't know if it's just Ted or whether it's the...
Oh, it is definitely me. It's the magic. I get so excited and exuberant about the lovely answers that I'm being given that I just get carried away.
Ted, just for our YouTube viewers, can I say that the next section is really going to be...
Light bulb moment.
Nice one.
Well done, Paul. Well done.
I think he means electrifying.
Oh, electrifying.
Oh, okay.
I like it. I like it. Well done, Diane. That's very well spotted. You're obviously good at crosswords.
I need to
Not
move this
particularly.
out of the way and come back to that.
Paul and I throw crosswords to each other all the time.
I'm sure you do. I mean, you've got to keep these division directors in check.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wear a cross bow.
Oh,
Right. Interesting.
that's a dicky bow.
Well, I suppose that's better than the bolt.
Isn't it though?
One, get rid of that. Now, I was trying to be very clever and something didn't work. Which was really annoying. But of course I got away with it, didn't I? Let's whilst we're here, let me try one little thing, see if I can get whatever that thing I was trying to do was back again. Yeah. Okay. Right, would somebody please talk? Just to change speaker.
Hello.
I'm talking.
That's better. Okay. Oh.
Same here, Moira.
Yeah, you didn't come on. You didn't. The yellow band didn't come onto you, Paul. Ted. Try
Oh,
again.
did it not? Okay. What does that mean?
Okay, that's it. Oh, that's good. Oh, I like it. Right, I've got it working now. Good. Jolly
Okay, that's
good.
great.
Jolly good. So if I go to speaker view, now that's great. So I'm not on screen, but I can put
That's
you. Oh, that's
fantastic
brilliant.
because we
Good.
can see you on screen, but we don't know what you're talking about, Moira.
Well, it's quite simple. I don't want me to be appearing on screen when we are recording, right?
Yes.
Because I just have those who are speaking on screen.
Okay.
Yep. Pardon me. But I'm using the dual screen option in the Zoom in order to get a better full screen or full frame video quality as
Right.
opposed to what I was doing before, which is enlarging your individual window in Zoom, which is therefore going to be of a lower quality. But we'll get a better quality. So I shall now shut up again. I shall do what I always do and mute my microphone and get the cursor in the right place. And Ted, are you ready?
Yes, Moira, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the talk show for talkers on irishtalkers.com. And this is segment 2 of this weekend's offering. And we did promise you yesterday a special guest. And this special guest is Diane Richardson. And Diane is a member of District 71. Diane, you're very welcome to the talk show for talkers.
Thank you very much, Ted. It's
And
nice to be-
Diane, normally what I do is I ask our guests 5 questions, but you don't know where the 5 questions are because we could be asking you 50 questions, but however, specifically 5 questions. But one of the questions I have to ask you first is, and I know you're a multi-clubbed individual, so would you like to tell us the clubs that you're a member of?
Certainly. My home club is Chiltern, which I joined 5 years ago this month, which is in District 91 and just outside London. My second club is Tame, which is quite close to where I live, again in District 91. And I'm a club mentor and a member at Pegasus Speakers, which is based in Pegasus Advanced Speakers, I should say, which is based in Milton Keynes, which is District 71.
Gosh, how do you devote so much time to Toastmasters? Well done.
Thank you. It can be a juggling act at times.
Of course. And when you're a member of so many clubs, then would you notice the different characteristics of each club?
Oh, each 3 is completely unique.
Incredible.
And that's
yeah.
one that I think of the great strengths of Toastmasters and why I always encourage people, if they go and visit a Toastmaster club, if they don't like that one, we'll go and visit another one because that one might suit you better. So it's very much a case of there is not one solution, but there is still the same basic tenets with speeches, evaluations, table topics, keeping to time, and all the good stuff that we know about, and following pathways, because
Yeah,
I do
of course.
believe it has great education, learning
Yeah.
opportunities.
And you make a very important point. Even though we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, the sounds can be completely different, can't they? It's amazing how I've always found it amazing that each club has its own characteristics.
Yes, Chiltern, we tend to do a lot of work in the background and make sure that everyone is ready, and then we go in and there's really quite vicious banter sort of thing and jovial banter going on. Tame has a slightly different demographic. and is therefore a much more formal meeting.
Mm.
Pegasus has its own unique energy and style, especially on the days when they get the keynote speakers in on the Saturday sessions. Again, it runs completely different to the other two clubs.
Yeah, wonderful. As you said, what an education.
Fabulous education.
Yeah.
The work that Carla has done at Pegasus is outstanding, and I think it would be a model that other people will follow in future with other clubs, getting in guest speakers to get a club started in the middle of lockdown, and to take it from 20 members in June last year when it chartered to 60, I think it's 65 now, it was at 67 last month. It's a truly remarkable feat.
That's remarkable. That's incredible, actually. 67, you have enough for 3 clubs there, Diane?
Well, I believe that most clubs should be at least 35 strong.
Okay.
Because I believe it's easier to run a club when you have people volunteering and queuing up to do roles and to do the speeches. And I would rather put on extra meetings than have meetings where you've, say, got a club of 20 members and you only get, say, 14 turn up. And yeah, where's the energy?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
One of the things I've noticed is when you get lots of energy in the room, it tends to be when you suddenly hit 20, 21, 22 people. Something happens, some sort of magic happens. And that's great.
Yeah, fantastic. And what brought you to Toastmasters?
I was unemployed at the time, and a friend of mine who was president at Chiltern, and he just said, "Oh, come along, you'll practice and you'll gain some confidence." And I went along and thought the first two meetings were quite good, and I was lucky enough to win table topics second time out, and thought, yeah, okay, I'm kind of hooked now, and off we go. I think everyone wins table topics first or second time. I think that's part of the hook to get people in. It's a recruitment tool.
Yeah, brilliant. Back in the day, what they used to do, actually, Diane, you call it child psychology. They used to give us a lollipop. Now they give you a nice shiny ribbon and you feel like king of the castle.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it works, it works. And what has been the greatest benefit to you?
I think my confidence has grown, and obviously my speaking and presentation skills have grown as well. And I think that's the biggest benefit. And during lockdown, I think the benefit there is that you meet people who you wouldn't necessarily meet. You and I wouldn't have met Ted if it hadn't been for lockdown and everything moving online. So my network of contacts, friends, associates has grown phenomenally during lockdown, all through Toastmasters, because we all meet online and you just build relationships with people.
Yeah, and I think that's the silver lining in the gloom that was lockdown, and that is lockdown. That as Toastmasters, we've been so lucky that we can travel all around the world and meet fantastic people along the way.
Yes, a friend of mine, for example, I think she's been to Antonia. She's been to many, many clubs around the world, and she's got many, many people from Mexico and India and France and other places all joining her club. So I think it's very much a case of a two-way exchange. I've visited clubs in the States, I've visited clubs in Sweden, and again, it just opens your eyes to see that other clubs in other countries especially do things in slightly different ways to the way that we do in our clubs in the UK, in Southern UK.
It is wonderful, actually, yeah. And we should have at least I should have congratulated you on becoming a member of your DLT team in District 91. Well done, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I know, and we should mention Antonia Harrison as well, because that lady is a wonderful ambassador on behalf of Toastmasters. I
would wholeheartedly agree.
So you and she will be on the district leadership team, and I can see sparks and I can see fantastic things happening with District 91.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting time because we've got an all-female trio this year.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
And just over half the division directors are also female, and the other members of the DLT team, there's another 2 or 3 women on that group. I can't remember everyone's name at the moment, and 1 or 2 appointments are still to be made, but it is exciting times. And I think it's going to be a challenging time for us all as well, because
yes,
we've already started at my home club. We had a debate on Tuesday evening about the future, and do we go wholly online, stay wholly online, or do we go wholly back to face? And are we going to hold kind of hybrid meetings where you have one meeting online and next meeting in your meeting room, or you can go blended where you have people joining from
yes, of course,
outside? And what are the problems and issues connected with that? Because it's very easy to do with the big corporates. But it's the decision we made is it's going to take, say, 4, 5, 6 meetings before we can make a serious judgment.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That blended option is going to work.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, lots of questions. Yeah, and you mentioned the word challenge there. So, what has been your biggest Toastmasters challenge?
I've been on the D91 conference committee for 2 years. I was on last year and this year, and during those 2 years, I've organised 3 conferences. Because last year we organised one that was going to be a physical conference.
Yes.
And then 6 weeks' notice, we suddenly had to change the whole thing to being online. And of course, nobody else had done that before. So that I think is the biggest challenge, was getting everything and switching everything as part of the committee with a wonderful lady called Diane Richardson and the rest of the team. And we did it, and we had near enough 1,000 people turn up.
Brilliant. So that certainly was a challenge. And if you could, Diane, what would you change about Toastmasters, if anything?
I am a designer by profession, and I look at the Toastmasters both website and its Pathways program in particular. And I think that the basic ethos of Pathways is very, very good. But I do think the interface is somewhat clunky, and I think that has not helped the transition. And I think it's why people hark back to the books, because they were simple and everyone could understand it. So I do think there needs to be some thought going into how you interact with that typeface, web space, sorry, because it's dated with pop-up windows, and so many of us these days run pop-up blockers because that's how ads have traditionally appeared.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there, actually, and you use the perfect word, clunky. That's what it is. It is clunky, and particularly for people who are not very techie, such as me, I find it difficult to, and particularly with that problem you just spoke of there, it says to turn off your pop-up blocker. Now, what I wouldn't have realized that since I'm on Chrome, that the pop-up blockers are already turned off. So effectively what I was doing was the complete opposite of what they were asking me to do. And you can just imagine the frustration, you know?
Yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why perhaps some people still hark back to the old days. As I said, a book is a nice and easy thing to use. And of course you can get download the whole lot as a PDF or something like that, and then print it out. So then it becomes almost the same thing. But again, it's just those extra steps.
Yes.
What's really needed is something that's much simplified.
Yeah. What I found, Diane, recently was when we were running the Speechcraft course, that there is a portal there just specifically for Speechcraft. And what it does is that your Speechcrafters have access to Pathways. But that's a lot easier to use than our Pathways, even though it's the same program. It's a lot easier to navigate your way around it. So I think Toastmasters have taken the clunkiness out of it from the Speechcraft point of view, because I had 5 people at the start of this Speechcraft, and they had absolutely no problem doing all the things they were supposed to do. In fact, I ended up asking them questions. How did I do this and how did I do that? So, you know, if you look at the Speechcraft portal and look at it from the point of view of pathways, I think Toastmasters are starting to get it right.
I can't comment on that because I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Because I haven't done it through the Speechcraft portal and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
But if
But
you get a chance to look at it, you know.
Yeah, what I would say is I do think that, you know, things will change. If you look at the website now to where it was, you know, a year ago on the pathways bit, it is definitely, the user interface is definitely getting better and better. That's great. So I think there is some recognition somewhere.
Yeah, there are.
I don't have any official news. And
what keeps you coming back to Toastmasters?
Because I keep learning at every meeting.
Fantastic.
I know that sounds crass, but it's true.
Oh, nice one. I like that. No, it doesn't sound crass at all. It's so right, actually. And sometimes when they're asked a question, we look for a big, long, convoluted answer when usually 3 or 4 words answers the question, as you just said, because you keep on learning. And that's a wonderful testimonial on behalf of Toastmasters and the organization.
I agree.
And Diane, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and about your Toastmasters journey. And what I will say is, I hope you're going to stay with us because we're going to carry on this conversation, particularly in segment 4. And Paul might ask you 1 or 2 questions in segment 3 as well.
Okay, that's fine. I'll hang around then. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. That's been a pleasure. Thank you. And tomorrow, of course, we're going to be listening to Paul, and Paul will be talking about our district conference. So I know you'll be looking for advice.
Paul, Ted, that's really useful. But yeah, you paused for such a long time that I stopped recording.
Okay, no worries, Mara. No worries.
So let's go back.
We said it at the start, anyhow.
No, we'll go back and redo that.
It's also a good thing since I'm going to talk about the Hoover app.
Oh, the Hoover app, right? Okay, that's interesting, Paul. Yeah.
We'll bring the conference into.
Okay.
That was put into the WhatsApp, Ted.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, you should always check the WhatsApp before the meeting.
I had seen something about the conference, speaking about it last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we speak about Hoover, so.
Yep. Okay, Ted. So do your outro again. 3.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
And thank you very much, Diane. I enjoyed that conversation. And tomorrow we're going to have Paul O'Mahony, and Paul is going to be talking to us about this app with regards conferencing, Hoover app for District 71.
Thank you. Your chair's creaking again, Ted. Whoops. That's helped to switch the right keyboard off. Okay. Okay, talk amongst yourselves for a second or 2.
Okay, I'm just wondering why Paul has his hand over his eyes. Are you being blinded by the light, Paul, or what?
Oh, yes, blinded by the lights. Ted, take it away. Will you mind singing? That would be really good. Blinded by the light would be...
Yeah, nice one.
Excellent, thank you.
Maura threw me off my trolley there when she said I had a creaking chair.
Well, I didn't think it was your bones, Ted.
Well, you'll be surprised.
I hope it's not your bones.
Oh, you're right. I had the creaking chair, all right.
Can I ask if any of you, just as background to this, if any of you ever heard of Hoover before it was adopted by District 71?
No, I hadn't heard of it.
No, Hoover was a vacuum cleaner, as far as I was concerned.
Hoover.
Diane, had you ever come across it, or have you ever come across it, even to this day?
No, in District 91, we use our own software.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
get you.
I've been on it. I've been there, and I put a couple of remarks on your conference software. Mm-hmm. This is the software that people use for networking, isn't it?
It's Zoom, and then it's narrowcast into different places.
Okay, right.
Narrowcast. That's a new one to me.
And what I was very impressed with,
Narrowcast.
Diane, with your with the conference, I loved the way you had the speaker in a different room just with a timer, and we were still able to see them on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of this kind of stuff away, of turning off your monitors so the speaker can't see you. So the speaker couldn't see us, but we could see the speaker. I thought that was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, that's what I meant by narrowcasting, and
Oh, that's what narrowcasting is. That's
so what we're
interesting.
doing is just broadcasting in from one Zoom room to another.
Yeah, I see. Yeah,
And,
yeah, excellent.
A guy called John Drinkwater is the
Right.
By the way, Diane, I had the great pleasure of listening to your 2-minute speech and the other 2-minute speeches, but those of us who were in the other room were able to hear you, very good audio. What we could not see you, by the way.
Well, that's probably an advantage.
Did you say no advantage or no disadvantage?
Just to let you know, if the word hadn't reached you about that, I mean, there have been plenty of discussions about that behind the scenes, but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Several people did, but in the actual deck meeting, it went through fine.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We weren't entitled to be well, you know, all the people in the other room that I was in were people who were not members of the deck in District 91.
Yeah.
Morag Matheson, for example, was in the other room.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, are we ready to rock?
Yeah, I'll call Paul in there somewhere.
On episode 3, we must try and expunge this word segment, Ted, from our vocabulary. Okay. It goes back down to the days when we did an hour-long show, but we cut it up into 4 different separate segments, and we sort of carried on calling it segments forever. But they are separate podcasts, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so let me see. We're back to Ted and Paul, all 3. I have to think myself into this. Yep, okay. Right. Ted, are you going to bring in, and Paul, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Ted.
And I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. You're coming to the episode that you wait for every week. Mr. Paul O'Mahony, and he's going to be giving us something very interesting. And I think he may be testing or checking with our guest for advice on the Hoover experience for conference. Paul, take it away, my man.
Thank you very much, Ted, and welcome, listeners. Can you remember where you were on December the 3rd, by the way, in 2013? Were you by any chance looking for a job? Because on December the 3rd, 2013, there was an advert placed called Work for Hoover, Technology Entrepreneur, Technology Entrepreneur Center, University of Illinois, 2013. Fast forward to 2021, and District 71 decided to use one of the greatest event organization pieces of software recognized worldwide in order to help run our District 71 conference. I don't know, and there's only one person who does know, why the app is called Hoover, W-H-O-V-A. I can tell you a couple of things that are critically important about Hoover. That it was invented by a woman, a computer science professor, Young Yang, Z-H-O-U, Tzu. I'm not, my Chinese isn't very good. My Cantonese is even worse. Never mind. She's the inventor of the app. And that is a very, very valuable thing to know. So there we have a Chinese-American woman invented the app, but way, way back. And it took all the way from 2013, 2014, right the way through how many years that was, about 7 years, for District 71 to discover it and decide to use it. Enough about the history. So I certainly had no idea, never heard of it. Ted, I think you never heard of it before. Diane Robertson, you had never heard of it before? No, and Moira O'Brien had never heard of it before. So yeah.
Diane Richardson even, Paul.
That's right, Diane Richardson. Just testing listening, says I. Forgive me, listener. Anyway, so here we are with an app that now, is it any good? I guess you've got to say. Is it any good? Well, let me tell you, first of all, that 431 people of those who have registered to attend the district conference have already registered on it. So we're in a phase before the conference starts where it's all about networking, building rapport with people, getting your head in order of deciding what am I going to go to, who am I going to avoid, all of that kind of stuff. And 431 people, a small proportion of them have been using the app. And there is even a leadership board on which the list of people in Toastmasters from all around the world, those who have used it most, those who have availed of it, those who have sent messages to each other. And right up there in it is Therese Kinahan. Therese Kinahan is one of the contest organizers. There are others who are up there, right up on top of Whova. And, you know, the thing about Whova is that it uses this method of giving you points if you do something to encourage you. Keep on using it. See if you can reach the top of the leadership board. So there's one of the techniques. It's not a new technique, but it's a tried and tested one that works. Then what you can do is you can find out the names of all the people who have registered on the app, and you can send them messages. You can send them private messages. You can build rapport with them doing this method. You can even encourage them to join your club. And this is a critical thing. Whova provides an opportunity for members of one club to try to recruit people to join their club. How do you do it? Well, we discussed that last week to a certain extent, but it's about building rapport, making it attractive to visit, and being able to close the deal. And you can always say to somebody, no problem at all, I'll send you over the application form tomorrow. So anyway, I've done that, by the way, to one person already, but that's neither here nor there. So here we go. What will you find on Whova? Now, there's a whole list of topics that people discuss. And the number one topic that has been discussed so far is your favorite music. So you're coming along to this conference, you don't know who's going to be there. Somebody puts up what's your favorite music. Isn't that a really good way of discovering who belongs to your tribe? And if, as like Ted, you're a heavy metal fan, you can find out who else is heavy metal at the conference. So that's really good. The second one is a really serious question. Like, are all new clubs thinking about hybrid? There's a question. There have been 43 contributions in relation to that. Just to tell you, music is way out ahead, 51. Then we have, what's the best and worst advice you've ever been given in Toastmasters? So you can see how this is going. And then you got some person who even put up poetic Toastmasters. Anybody want to come to a meeting where all of the contributions will be poetic? And that actually scraped in at getting 42 comments. I won't name them all, but the other possibility that you have there is to arrange a meetup. You can put your club there. You can say Blarney Club is meeting on Tuesday, the 11th of May. And I can tell you that somebody I know very well, Moira O'Brien, has done that. So this can be used for these purposes. What else can I tell you about
Paul,
it?
can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, do.
When I register for the conference, am I automatically signing up to the app?
No,
Or do I have to sign up separately?
you have to sign up
Separately.
separately. You have to first of all go on to the and download the app onto your smartphone, and you have to just follow your. I won't give the instructions on how to do it, but if you need any assistance, you can always ask me or Moira. But the listeners can get assistance, and if you really have trouble, probably go onto YouTube and put in how on earth do I sign into Whova, because everything is on YouTube.
Okay.
There's no difficulty at all. We got all sorts of things, your favorite speech contests, whole discussion about judging standards and, how judges are trained or not trained. How do we encourage, this is a good one. How do we encourage more people from District 91 to attend our conference? These are topics. I didn't count the total number of topics. It can't be that far off 100. There's loads of time for more, because today our conference isn't on until the 21st of May. That's an awful long time for. Now, what you have on Whova, WHOVA, as you'd expect, are the early adopters. So if you want to do a little bit of intelligence gathering, who are the early adopters of new things in District 71, you go and see who has put something, not who's registered really, but the early users, anyone who's put a comment, even if it is, I like that. So it gives you a way into the culture of a meeting. Now, there are people in Toastmasters who actually organize events outside Toastmasters. Those of you who are on YouTube are looking at least 3 of them. Ted Melanfi organizes events. He's a trainer. Diane Richardson has organized more events than Moira has had hot dinners. I've been organizing events since I was 9 years old. So it's just, Moira is too modest to tell us all the events that she's organized. So in some ways, loads of people in Toastmasters organize events like family gatherings, etc. The Whova app, I've no idea how much it costs to actually start using it, but it could be used in relation to club meetings. Now, I heard Diane mention Pegasus with 60 or 70 members. When you get a club to that size, it begins to be imaginable that you would use something like Whova to lead up, let's say, to the club's annual general meeting, where you could have all sorts of things, including like what topics would you like? You do a survey of your members. And there's one other thing I haven't mentioned. It is that the District 91 conference is going to be essentially broadcast within the app. All of the events are going to be, you're going to be able to get into them within the app, which is, of course, a great benefit. Now, I'm not saying that it's the best. I'm not capable of saying it's the best one in the world, but so far it hasn't crashed. It's resilient, it's robust, but it also, it's great because there are people who aren't from clubs in District 71 on there. I've been chatting with somebody from Sweden, and I've even invited them to come to 1 or 2 of the clubs that I'm a member of. And that's what's the terrific thing about it, I think. Now, we never had this last year.
Yeah, would there be some comparable events, Paul, such as a district conference? Would there be comparable events that we could have looked at to see how it is going to go? So
there are loads of them you can actually, because Whova will give you a whole list of events that are coming up, and you can go and sign into those events. I haven't done it, but it's a portal which gives you access to events worldwide, because it is not a local, I know we do a lot of good things in Cork, but it's not a local Cork thing. It's a worldwide thing. So you can probably go to, there'll be a whole load of private things you won't be allowed into, but there are big global corporations. I had it there in front of me a minute ago to give you an idea who's already using Whova. And it would take me a couple of minutes to actually, because I'm on the Whova website, just to let you know, it's helped 20,000 already, over 20,000 in-person events and 5,000 virtual events. And this will become increasingly handy to know, over 500 hybrid events. Almost 500,000 messages were posted on one event's community board. 500,000 messages on the board. Now, the board is where you discuss things even before. And one exhibitor collected 3,356 leads. And one event had over 1,000 concurrent sessions. So look, I'm not here. I don't have any shares in Whova. I haven't, this podcast is not sponsored by Whova. Just need to make that clear to anyone. We are supported by District 71. We are not sponsored by Whova. Ted, is there anything, one last word, is there anything you'd like to ask me about it before you go running over there?
No, well, I did ask the question there, Paul, but you did say you don't know what it costs. So as individuals, do we have to pay it to download this app? No, okay.
Totally free. You can go, and everything associated with the district.
Okay, well, that's good. So it sounds
free.
Good. Sounds good.
I'm just saying, if you're a contest organizer, you presumably have to buy a license, and listeners will
of course
know about that kind of stuff. You have to.
Well, that might be a great investment on behalf of District 71, and that's a nice way to finish up segment 3, or as Moira said, episode 3. So, Paul, thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll have emails in about it, asking questions before we actually get to our district conference, which is the 21st to the 23rd of May.
One last thing, Ted. I think there's already a topic up on Whova about the talk show for talkers. And I'm pretty sure one of the key questions that was asked is, what do you think of Ted Melanphy's haircut? I can't be sure now about that.
Yeah, I know. I think you're wrong. Actually, it is not my haircut. It is your haircut.
Could have been one of those. Anyway, look, you have to go to Whova, listeners, in order to find out what are people saying. What's the word on the block about Ted Melanphy?
Well done. And thank you for that, Paul. And that tomorrow, come back tomorrow, because we are going to be having another conversation with Diane Richardson. And I'm going to want to know what Diane thinks of Whova. So come back and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Hey, Ted.
Yes.
She's already told you offline that she's never even looked at this. The poor woman, you're going to embarrass her tomorrow by saying, what do you think of Whova?
No, Paul, something that you learn in Toastmasters, it's impossible to embarrass another Toastmaster. Don't you know that?
Yeah, you're right.
I know that this lady is resourceful and resilient, and I have no doubt that she knows a lot about Whova, because she's probably after been checking it out there while we were having our tete-a-tete.
Anyway, I tell you what, I'd like to know what our plans are as incoming club growth director in District 9.
Yeah, there's so much we can talk about.
I want to know all about those, but look, I it's up to you really what you decide, how you're going to start the conversation.
Well, there were so many beautiful triggers in the segment 2 this week
Episode
with
2.
Diane, that there's lots of questions that I'd love to have answered.
Episode 2. Episode 2.
Oh, episode 2, beg your pardon, Myra.
Episode 2. Got to drum it into our heads. Okay. I'm equally as guilty, Ted, so don't feel out of place.
So, Paul, will you bring us in for segment 4?
I will, of course, yeah.
Okay. And, folks, we're doing pretty well. So we've been going an hour.
Nicely, yeah.
Not as good as last week, Ted. Last week, I think we finished it in about 50 minutes.
Oh, excellent.
No, we didn't, but it did go well.
Good.
Right, I think we're ready. Paul, you ready? It's a lovely view,
Yeah, I'm ready.
lovely view of your head when you write, Ted, Paul. Yeah, top of your head.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah.
Okay, Paul, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, listeners. Welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers, and welcome to an episode today, which is really pushing the boundaries within Toastmasters, because it's all about 2 districts in Toastmasters International collaborating together. And today we have we have the Club Growth Director-elect, Diane Richardson, who has recently won an election in District 91 to be on their board of directors. For those of you who don't know anything about Toastmasters, that's a really high influential position. And she's going to be in conversation with a man who hasn't yet become a Club Growth Director, Ted Melanfi. He is a man who's grown many purposeful events, and Ted is a real growth guy, and he will grow your self-esteem and grow your knowledge because he's a skilled health and safety trainer and consultant. So today's episode, Ted Melanfi and Diane Richardson having a wonderful conversation together. Enjoy.
And thank you, Paul. That's a very glowing introduction. And Diane, you heard what Paul was saying there. And during our conversation earlier, you said that you're a graphic designer. Is that it?
I am, yes. I specialize in branding.
Oh, interesting. Specialize in branding. So is that what you do outside of Toastmasters? Is that's obviously your business?
Yes, I now do a lot more about the management and the strategy of branding, but I started out as a graphic designer on
Excellent.
focusing on branding projects.
So when you're doing some of those posters and stuff for District 91, do you do this canvas stuff that we've been educated about recently, about the different colors and the Pantones and stuff like that we have to use?
Yes, I mean that's meat and drink to me, but I don't use Canva. I use professional Adobe Designer software.
Oh, I see, right, yeah, that's interesting, yeah. But what about the restriction from the point of view of Toastmasters and the brand and the colors? You know, there are certain Pantones you're restricted to.
That's fine. Quite often, an identity gets into trouble when people just ignore the rules totally. The rules are there as a guideline.
Okay.
So I was the first ever worldwide brand director for Amnesty International.
Well done.
So we had a palette of colors. We had set typefaces. And what that does, it means that we were suddenly getting, be it in the Republic of Ireland or in Spain or South America or wherever, the States, they're all starting to come together and have a similar appearance, but they all still had their unique feel. So you could tell immediately it was something from Amnesty because the colors, the typefaces, the messaging. And it's the same with Toastmasters. Toastmasters colors are specified and they're pretty unique colors. And so long as you don't muck around with the logo, you use the right typefaces, they can be quite loose, they can be interpreted in all sorts of different ways.
Mm.
I just interpret them in a way that perhaps other people wouldn't. And I know once or twice I've gone a bit too far and I've been told I've got to rein it back by the brand people in the States. But occasionally, that's my nature. I've sat on that side of the fence, so I just want to push as hard as I can against the fence.
Of course, yeah.
But I've got many years experience of
fantastic.
Actually, a defense, so I know where to push and where not to.
Yeah, and when you mentioned typeface there, because in another life I was a printer, and I know all about, well, I don't know all about, but I know a certain amount about typefaces. And the interesting thing about Steve Jobs is when he decided to leave university, that the course that he took up was, well, not so much about typography, it was calligraphy. And 10 years later, he was the person who came up with inventing the personal computer. And it was all based on what he had learned in that particular class of calligraphy, which was very interesting. So he could see, he had the vision of what he wanted to do, and look what he did after with it.
Exactly. I'm of an age where I learned my typography on hot metal.
Yeah, hot metal, that's what I was with too, hot metal, yeah. Well done.
So for those who don't know what hot metal is, instead of sitting at a keyboard typing in and all of a sudden, and then just running your cursor over a typeface and then clicking somewhere else in the window to decide what typeface it is, hot metal basically means that letters are cast in a lead tin combination. And of course, that it was incredibly dangerous. It was quite an environmentally unfriendly kind of situation, but it's the way that it's been done basically since Gutenberg. So there was no great revolution until the Apple PC came along, and all of a sudden things started to happen, the way the interface worked with people. And it's not, and that meant that all of these hidden skills, because certainly in the UK, and I don't know what it was like in Ireland, but
Same in Ireland, yeah.
You had compositors who learned how to typeset would spend about 4 or 5 years learning their trade.
That's right.
And now everyone just goes straight at it. And that allows people to be incredibly creative. But it sometimes means that they've missed perhaps some of the detail about, you know, and how to fix things like the lines. I call it leading, but that shows my age. But
yeah, very good. Yeah, I like it.
Line scraping and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you talk to people about a Salidas, they'll look at you as if you're a complete idiot. But actually, Salidas is a slash.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. And
Paul has his hand up. Paul, you want to ask a question?
If I can come in with left field, Diane, on this, two-part question. One is I know that District 91 doesn't yet have a podcast that it supports. So I would love to find out, you know, is that in any way on your agenda, using podcasting as a way of growing membership and hopefully helping to set up clubs, and so would that be part of your marketing plan? Because I know that Club Growth Director's #1 job is to bring into existence the marketing plan, or look after it and use it. So where does podcasting fit in the marketing mix is one small question. And the second question really is, because the listeners in 91 who will be tuned into this will be huge, because they want to know, you know, what does Diane Richardson intend to do in our district when she takes over the reins on the 1st of July? It is, okay, what are your three big things for District 91 looking ahead? Because District 71, of course, has its conference and will have its own, you know, marketing plan and its own plans for next year. So I'd love to hear about 91, please.
Okay, there are no plans at present for a podcast. That's partly because we in District 91 have a whole portfolio or suite of over 50 digital adverts that can be used on Facebook, Instagram, and the copy has already been written. So all clubs have to do is change the hashtags and post them. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on getting the message out there using Facebook, down my street or up my street, or whatever it's called, and Meetup and Eventbrite and other programs like that. That's the first part of the strategy. The second part of the strategy is we need to boost the numbers per club. If you look at the average numbers per club, at the moment it's 18 in D71, and it's just over 20 in D91. Last year in D91, in January, we were at 33 members of club. So it gives you an idea of how hard the pandemic was hit. So the first strategy has to be, the first thing has to be to boost members per club. So, because that then means you start to generate the energy, it then becomes a virtuous circle. You start getting energy, you start getting better meetings, guests come along, they want to join because they enjoy the experience, and it then builds nicely. Secondly, there is still opportunities for growing new clubs. And some of the what's interesting is that some of the new clubs that are out there all offer something that is unique. So Pegasus offers 3 meetings a month, one of which includes guest speakers that makes people want to join because they're getting something in addition to the usual Toastmasters kind of experience. And that is one of the reasons why I think the club has succeeded. Other clubs like in London, Excalibur, 104 Debaters have also done very well in boosting their numbers. So maybe we, instead of just thinking about, okay, we're just offering it Toastmasters as a speech only thing, you need to perhaps think about, if you're forming a new club, well, how else can we add value to the Toastmasters experience? And everyone's going to come up with different ideas because no one has a monopoly on great ideas. And you never know where the next one's going to come from. But I will be encouraging people to think about how they can add and differentiate their club from the other clubs so that they're offering something new. Because you can't just keep finding more and more different locations for clubs, because there are only so many large population centres. There are certainly gaps in both D71 and D91. Why is it that, say, Cardiff has only got 1 club, whereas Dublin, which is a city of roughly the same size, has, you'll have to correct me here if I get this wrong, but has something like 15 or 20 clubs, doesn't it?
Just a point there, Diane, just a point there, Cork, which is a county, which is way, way tinier than Dublin, has 20 active clubs. 20 active clubs in Cork.
Yeah. But you have an advantage, Paul. You have the Blarney Stone.
Very good.
But you know, Diane, tell me, what is your opinion about a situation like this? Let's just pick a place like, let's say Wimborne, right? Yep. Wimborne is a medium-sized town in a county in the south of England, right? It's a place I used to live near. Right? So let's imagine Wimborne has a club. It doesn't matter whether it does or doesn't, right? And that club meets on a Tuesday. What I'd love to know your thoughts about this. Of course, there are a whole load of people in Wimborne who that night is football practice. That's the local football club and the hockey club and the whatever. That's the main night for coaching. And the bridge club meets on Tuesday night. And also, there happens to be a business networking group that also meets on that Tuesday. Now, what do you think, Diane, about the idea that Wimborne should have a club that meets at a totally different time and day in the week? What's your view on that?
I would encourage it to build the club on a different night of the evening. What I would also do is, before you put a lot of effort into it, is do some market research. Work out what your audience is, when all these other activities are on. You know, if you've got all of these things happening on a Tuesday, then guys, don't do a Tuesday night. Find a Wednesday or a Monday or a Thursday. or even, and there are 1, 2 clubs in D91 that meet either in the Saturday morning or early mornings during the week.
Yes,
Because that's the best time for them to meet. So you don't have to sort of think, yeah, the club's got to be at 7:15 on a Tuesday night or anything like that. Find your gap in the market and then work out what your USP is and then push hard. Because it's not easy setting up a club from scratch. But it's not impossible because lots and lots of people have done it in the past. And we, as a club growth team, will be there to support you. We can't do it for you because we don't have the time, but we're there to support you, give you guidance, offer the help that you need to get up and running.
That's wonderful to hear. And I personally wish you a tremendous success. I think your existing membership, what might it be, about 3,500 or something?
It's roughly that, yes.
So I wish you 5,000 members this time next year.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done, Diane. I wish you the very best of luck as well in that particular role. And you mentioned Saturday mornings. 2 of our clubs in Cork, actually, they meet on Saturday mornings every week. And they are probably 2 of our more successful clubs, Bishopstown and West Cork Toastmasters. And they meet at 11 o'clock until 12:30 or 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So there's no rule that says it has to be an evening meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Think creatively.
Yeah, well done. Thank you for your wise words, Diane, and thank you for being our guest this week on the Talk Show for Talkers. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio with us, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us. So thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that's all from the Talk Show for Talkers for this week. And we'll see you again next week when we'll have a brand new guest. Bye.
Bye-bye, listeners. Great.
Thank you, Diane. That was excellent. You'll have to make sure now, Diane, that you'll get your Chiltern speakers and Thames and Pegasus to listen in Saturday at 4 o'clock particularly, but they can also listen in Friday at 4 o'clock because that's the time we publish the different episodes. So it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, 4 o'clock.
Okay, well, I hope I haven't said anything too controversial.
No, not at all. No, we'd love if you had. Actually, that would be a real crowd puller.
No, as I said, Pathways is a good program, but it's hampered by bad publicity. Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree.
And a clunky type.
It's clunky. It is clunky. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, it is difficult enough. Yeah. And I mean, you're a person who's obviously have no problem when it comes to technology, but you have people who have big problems when it comes to technology. Well, so we haven't a hope at all.
Yeah, I think everyone has problems with technology. The first time I used it, I thought, "What's that?" And it, took me a little while to work through what was happening and that sort of thing.
One of the worst things that happened, I think, is that before Pathways was introduced, certainly into District 71, but I think it was other places, there were these Pathways ambassadors appointed. Yeah. And the job was to introduce Pathways. And unfortunately, let me say, some of them were not quite as well prepared as might have been desired.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And indeed, some of them did damage, of course, unintended damage, but damage to the reputation of Pathways. And some of them even intended to do damage to the future prospects of Pathways. Very, very unfortunate. If only those people had been supported and selected maybe in a different way, the publicity for Pathways would have been better. The next thing that happened is that the strategy for introducing Pathways into clubs there never was a recommended strategy.
Mm.
It was done in different ways in different clubs without any strategic intent behind how shall we do it. Little thing. Although some clubs stumbled into the realization that it was a really good thing to have one person in their club who would become a real expert and was willing to coach others. It never seems to have crossed the mind of some other clubs that they could help themselves by getting one person. And the thing that never crossed many of the clubs was, hey, we don't have an expert in our club. Why don't we get in touch with another club and ask if we could collaborate with them?
Mm.
Strategic, all wrong. Then a terrible mistake was made. This was really almost the worst. A whole
I think though, regardless of pathways, that last comment could be leveled at many clubs. We're not recording, are we, Maura?
We are public still, we are still streaming. So if
Diane, you can let me off on my little rant. I have one more point then, and you can decide what is it wise for you to say. But the key thing is that what actually then happened was that a whole load of people who weren't using computers for their job, in fact, were retired, had given up work, loved Toastmasters. Practically the only thing they did on their computers was dust it off so that it wouldn't be. They were encouraged to start using computers. Bonkers idea, in my opinion. Nobody ever joined Toastmasters to learn how to use a computer. And there's much better places than Toastmasters to learn how to use a computer. Toastmasters is fairly inept at teaching people how to use a computer. That's to be blunt. I've seen people try to teach people how to use a computer in a room with 8 or 9 people. First of all, they don't do that professionally. Secondly, they're talking to a whole load of people who don't really want to be there. So all these people, hardly any of them were ever steered onto, guys, we got a new paper program. You can have your modern education program on paper like the previous one. And look, there's a whole load of stuff in the old stuff, and you're going to see it's all in the new stuff as well. So there's no problem at all. So no thought was given. Now, the talk show for talkers was where people should have come.
yeah, we did cover every single path and every single project in Pathways. Imagine that. It was a 5-year
period every week.
Yeah.
In other words, Moira O'Brien led the show, and she went through every single elective at every level. And we discussed, what does that really require? Give you a little example. Everyone has to do something that shows they're capable of doing research, or at least you will eventually have to do that, right? Mm-hmm. To prove yourself capable. And that's absolutely right. You should be able to speak with authority, and why should anyone believe you unless you've done your research? That kind of thought. So we had a discussion in which we agreed among ourselves that it does require somebody to give a handout to people at the meeting with your sources. Now, it can be a digital handout, but that's part of the project, that you prepare your sources. You don't just go and talk, and the speech needs to be full of, as Diane Richardson said in the recent article, which you can find in Toastmasters magazine.
Yep. And still they don't do it.
And still they don't do it. And the point is that we went through these things. So available for other people is best practice advice. Isn't that right, Moira?
Absolutely correct. And all those episodes are available on our website, irishtalkers.com. You might have to search a bit for them because we're going back 3 years now, but they're all there. Anyway, I think we will now close down the YouTube stream.
YouTube, yeah.
Because I feel that Diane has a need to open her heart and her mind somewhat more openly. Right, so bye-bye YouTube for this week. We'll see you again next week.
YouTube.
It's been great having you with us, and we'll see you again the same time next week.